talking about some nutritional supplements today, and this place is the place to go to get the nutritional supplements that I'm talking about. A full disclosure, I have no financial relationship. I don't make any money from the sale of any of the supplements I talk about today. But in 31 years of clinical experience, I'm here to tell you that supplementation with the right stuff is not just a good idea, but it is mandatory, and we're going to get into it a lot today. This is my website, drglidden.com, or you could spell it all out, D-O-C-T-O-R. I have a wealth of information on my website. I encourage you to go to it regularly and keep informed, because as my second cousin, 6 times removed Benjamin Franklin said, we must all hang together, or most assuredly, we will hang alone. Perspective is important. Any survivalist will tell you that if you're lost in the wilderness, you need perspective. You need to climb to a high place to see where you are so you can chart your way out. We need perspective, and we don't have it, especially when it comes to the development and the delivery of medicine here in the United States of America. Your medical doctor may be the nicest person that God ever created, but your medical doctor does not own medical science. They're trained in just one piece of the pie of medical science, but that piece has been sold to you through 107 years of pharmaceutical propaganda as the only piece. You have been socialized to believe that your medical doctor owns the secret decoder ring to all things medical, and everybody else is a back-of-the-bus quack with substandard dangerous training. It's a lie. Medicine is like a big umbrella underneath which hang many different disciplines. We have the MDs, the naturopaths, traditional Chinese medicine, chiropractor, osteopath, homeopath, herbalist, Ayurvedic practitioner, traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, etc., etc., etc. All different medical disciplines. In many parts of the world, all licensed and regulated. But in 1912 in the United States, the Carnegies and the Rockefellers convinced Congress with money and political persuasion to make the American Medical Association the exclusive arbiters of medicine in the United States. And they effectively kicked everybody else off of the bus of medicine, and they've maintained their position at the top through the unimaginable wealth and political persuasion of the pharmaceutical industry. And this is not a diatribe against pharmacy. Thank God for insulin and Novocaine. Every time I'm at the dentist's office, I thank God for Novocaine. In many instances, it's not the drug, it's how it's used. Your medical doctor is not trained in medicine. Your medical doctor is trained in allopathic medicine. And this is a very important distinction to understand. You know, language is everything, and most people in the United States have never even heard this word. They have no idea what allopathic is, and they have no idea that their medical doctor practices allopathic medicine. They think their medical doctor practices medicine. And by the way, that was the co-opting of the term medical doctor was a feat of propaganda that Joseph Goebbels would be proud of. Again, your medical doctor may be the nicest human that God ever created, but they do not practice medicine. They practice allopathic medicine. And this is an important distinction. Every different system of medicine is informed by an underlying philosophy, a scientific philosophy. Allopathic medicine is based on reductionism. Reductionism is based on the physics of Sir Isaac Newton, Newtonian physics. Newtonian physics argues if it can't be measured, it does not exist. So inside of a reductionistic framework, The body is a machine made of parts. When something in the body breaks, a medicine has to be delivered for that part. So you get one medicine for your arthritis, one medicine for your migraine, one medicine for your heartburn, one medicine for your blood pressure, one medicine for your blood sugar, one medicine for your depression, one medicine for your anxiety, one medicine for your insomnia, a medicine to pee, a medicine not to pee, a medicine to poop, a medicine not to poop, or you get the adult diapers. This is reductionism. The body is a machine made of parts. There is no soul. There is no spirit. Consciousness itself is a function of biochemistry. When the body dies, it's lights out, game over, because nobody has ever measured the soul, nobody has ever measured the spirit, nobody has ever measured the divine. So therefore, it does not exist inside of a reductionistic framework. The body does not have an ability to heal itself. The logic goes, if the body could fix itself, it never would have gotten sick in the first place. So this is a very interesting point to ponder. Of the thousands of prescription medications that are currently available, remember, not the drug, how it's used. Of the thousands of prescription medications currently available, the only ones that cure anything are antibiotics. And those are starting to fail us. Heartburn isn't cured, it's managed. Blood pressure isn't cured, it's managed. Blood sugar isn't cured, it's managed. Depression isn't cured, it's managed. Nothing is cured. It's not because your medical doctor is stupid or sadistic. It's because of reductionistic philosophy. Body's a machine made of parts. There's no spirit, there's no vital force, there's no inherent underlying consciousness. Illness must be managed. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, we have every other system of medicine on planet Earth. Every other system of medicine. The homeopaths, the acupuncturists, the chiropractors, the osteopaths. Well, not so much the osteopaths. Not anymore. Practice holistic medicine. Holistic medicine is the exact opposite of reductionistic medicine. Holistic philosophy argues the body is a complex system of interrelated parts. One of the naturopathic treatment maxims is you don't treat the disease, you treat the person. And I could argue that there really is, in fact, no such thing as disease, but that's a lecture for another moment in time. The body has innate intelligence which is delivered to it by its spiritual essence. Whatever it is, which existed before you were born and which will exist after you die, if you believe that, and all world religions argue for that, is running the show from the holistic point of view. There are literally, not figuratively, literally millions of biochemical processes happening in your body right now which are automatic, completely outside of your control. It is the intelligence of the soul force, the spirit, the chi, whatever you want to call it, which is running the show. We speculate that this is true because when the body dies and Elvis leaves the building, the body disintegrates. Same biochemistry, same material stuff as before, but it disintegrates. Why? Well, because Elvis has left the building. And when Elvis is in the building, it's running the show. This is a fundamental holistic point of view. Therefore, the body knows how to fix itself. The body wants to fix itself. The body is attempting to fix itself all of the time. So it is the holistic physician's sacred obligation to develop and deliver therapeutics which support the body's built-in innate ability to fix itself. This is where the term naturopathic medicine came from. It's not because the medicines that we use are natural. Many of them, in fact, are not naturally occurring. All homeopathic medicines are not naturally occurring. It's because we support and promote the body's natural, inherent ability to fix itself. This is the underlying philosophy. MD-directed pharmaceutical centrist reductionistic allopathic medicine is currently the leading cause of death in the United States. It's the leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States, and it has existed inside of a medical monopoly for over 107 years. Allopathic reductionism, the medicine that your MD is trained in, is not concerned with what causes disease. This is a fascinating thing. If you really want to have an education, just go to Wikipedia and Google any illness. Pick an illness. And if you read what they say about that illness, you will see that they have no idea what causes that illness. Arthritis may be caused by this. We suppose that it may be theoretically linked to this. It may have something to do with a bad gene. They don't know for sure. This is a disturbing, enlightening aha moment for most people when they understand that the best and brightest minds in medical care have no flipping idea as to the causation of most chronic disease. And they are not trained to cure disease, they're trained to manage disease. Therefore, when I am appointed Attorney General, I will make it illegal for anybody practicing allopathic medicine to say that they are doing health care. They're not. It's not health care, it's disease management. There's a gigantic difference between health care and disease management. Remember the umbrella? Different types of medicine? Medicine is a lot like dogs in that arena, in that example. There's a lot of different types of dogs. They're all good for different things. A lot of different types of medicine. They're all good for different things. Bloodhounds are good for finding lost people in the wilderness. Labrador retrievers, they're good for duck hunting, good for goose hunting, right? Chihuahuas, I have no idea what they're good for. Maybe selling tacos. But I can guarantee you this, if you take a Chihuahua duck hunting, you're going to come back empty-handed. It's the wrong dog for the hunt, right? Well, it's exactly the same with medicine. But because we've had a medical monopoly in this country for 107 years, the only medicine you have access to is MD-directed medicine. The only medicine your insurance pays for is MD-directed medicine. The only medicine you know anything about, MD-directed medicine. And so when you get sick, the only person really that you're going to go to is an MD. And this is interesting because remember, you're welcome to your own opinion, but not your own set of facts. These are the facts. What results have 88 years of MD-directed medicine given us? You ready? I'm glad you're sitting down. Since the MDs have been in exclusive control of the development and the delivery of medicine, obesity has increased by 60% in adults in the last 20 years. It's tripled in the childhood population in the past 30 years, so much so that 1/3 of Americans are not just overweight, they are obese. Can't be the doctor's fault, though. It's got to be your fault. You've got the bad gene. Can't be the doctor's juvenile understanding of the pathophysiology of the human body. Can't be that. They're the undisputed arbiters of all things medical. Remember the secret decoder ring. If they can't figure it out, nobody can. Autism. While the MDs have been in exclusive control, 1 out of 68 children. I've seen recent statistics that say 1 out of 39. 1 out of 39 kids, autistic, on the spectrum. Used to be 1 in 10,000 in the 50s and the 60s. 1980, since 1980, Alzheimer's has risen from obscurity to become the 6th leading cause of death in the United States. Here's a healthy brain, a brain on Alzheimer's. By the way, there is a direct, this is another lecture that's available on my website. There is a direct relationship between the delivery of statin drugs, which reduce cholesterol, and the development of Alzheimer's. If you put on a graph the incidence of Alzheimer's and the delivery of statin drugs to the marketplace, they mirror each other almost exactly. Well, what's the mechanism behind this? 75% of our central nervous system is made from cholesterol. 95% of the part of the brain that's affected by Alzheimer's, 95% of the part of the brain that's affected by Alzheimer's is made from cholesterol. So when you drive cholesterol into the ditch with fat-free diets and statin drugs, your brain dries up. It's a physician-created disease. Don't even get me started about cancer. I have a 10-minute video, I think, circulating on YouTube that tells the truth about chemotherapy research and how unbelievably ineffective it is, and I'm just reporting the data. It has 100 million views. I think I struck a nerve. After this number's higher, it's closer to $1 trillion now of cancer research. Cancer remains uncured. We're not even close to curing cancer. And remember, we are trusting the people who do not even know how to cure heartburn. Can't cure it, they can manage it. We're trusting those people to come up with a cure for cancer. You've got to be kidding me. Meanwhile, the medical profession that can't even cure cancer generates hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue every year. Since the year 2000, chemotherapy has killed approximately 20 million people. It's not people that have died from cancer. It's people that have died from chemotherapy. Again, you're welcome to your own opinion, but you most certainly are not welcome to your own set of facts. These are the academic facts. In the United States, bankruptcy, the leading cause, medical bills. Well, that kind of makes sense from this position, because what's the most expensive type of medicine? It's the one that doesn't know what causes disease and the one that doesn't cure it. The one that simply manages it. Good for the pharmaceutical industry. Not so good for you and me. It's not just the United States. In Canada, it's getting even worse because it's socialized medicine in Canada. In Canada, they take money out of everybody's paycheck to pay for health care. There's no option. Canadians will spend approximately $50 million a day to maintain and improve. This is just in the province of Alberta. It's 45% of the government's operational spending. And it's not medicine. It's allopathic medicine that they're giving people access to. But nobody's talking about this except me. This is interesting. The leading cause of death in the United States, well, the third leading cause of death is cancer. About 550,000 people in the U.S. die from cancer. The second is heart disease, 700,000. You know what number one is? Medical doctor treatment, 780,000 people approximately die every year because they got a treatment from a medical doctor. Not because of their illness. It was the treatment that killed them. 780,000. And I'm the quack. Somebody shoots up a school and kills 12 people, and all of a sudden it's a public outrage. We need gun control. 780,000 people are killed by medical doctors, and nobody blinks a flippin' eyelash. This is how deep the socialization has gone. Now remember, reductionism, I don't know if I have a slide for this. I'll wait and see. Reductionism has its place, but for goodness sakes, I like this quote by Voltaire very much. Doctors are people who prescribe medicines of which they know little to cure diseases of which they know less, and human beings of whom they know nothing. And again, this, God heals and the doctor takes the fee. The fundamental naturopathic supposition. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience. Our bodies have innate intelligence. Our bodies know how to fix themselves. They want to fix themselves. They're attempting all of the time to fix themselves. And it is the holistic doctor's obligation, sacred obligation, I would argue, to develop therapies that support and promote the body's built-in ability to do this. If you cut your hand, do you have to tell your immune system to upregulate macrophage response time and secrete fibrinogen and increase helper T cell production? You don't even know what that is. That all happens automatically. This is our thesis. Figure out how to support the body's built-in ability to fix this. Get the hell out of the way and let the body fix it. And that's what we're going to talk about now relative to blood sugar metabolism. But because I'm a holist, because I'm a naturopathic doctor practicing holistic medicine, I like to give the proper perspective on it, right? We need to set the stage so you understand what we are attempting to do here. There are many different problems, different types of blood sugar metabolism, and conventional reductionistic medicine loves to categorize and subcategorize and sub-subcategorize illness. They love to do that. Type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, insulin-resistant syndrome, insulin-resistant diabetes, the beat goes on. From my point of view, these are all variations along the same theme. Different degrees of tissue destruction, different degrees of pathology, but it's more or less the same thing. Again, from the proper perspective, it's a lot easier to figure out. It may interest you to know that sugar itself is not the AntiChrist. And now let me explain this. Oops, we have a funky slide here. Sugar is the gasoline of your body. It is the preferred energy source of your body. If you don't ingest enough sugar, your body makes sugar. You could not blink an eyelash without sugar. Your body loves sugar. The problem is not sugar. I really did screw this slide up. The problem is how much sugar we swallow and how well our body is able to metabolize it. Now, here's a fun fact for you to know and tell. Your genetic material. Has anybody heard of DNA? If you've heard of DNA, raise your hand. DNA is an acronym for deoxyribonucleic acid. It's your genes. It's what your genes are made from. See this little acronym, ribo? You know what that stands for? Sugar. Your genes are made from sugar. Your DNA is made from sugar. That's why you're so sweet. Sugar has gotten a bad rap. The real problem with sugar is how much are you consuming? And this is a big bad voodoo daddy. Here's how much sugar we consumed in millions of tons. World sugar consumption in 1960, it was about 51 tons. And now it's 150 tons. The average American consumes 130 pounds of sugar every year. In 1822, the average American consumed 45 grams of sugar, the amount found in one of today's 12-ounce sodas, every 5 days. They consumed that every 5 days. In 2012, we consumed 785 grams of sugar every 5 days. This is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14, 1700% change. This is a flipping problem. And also the type of sugar that most of us are consuming is high fructose corn syrup. And high fructose corn syrup has a whole bunch of other nasty things associated with it. But the basic take-home message here is the human body was not designed to metabolize that much sugar. And sugar is everywhere all of the time. Now, here's a fun fact to know and tell. Well, I'll get to that in a couple of slides. Now we're going to do a little human cell anatomy. We have cells of the body. Here's a cross-section of a cell. We've got eye cells, we've got skin cells, we've got liver cells, we've got brain cells. Every part of the body is made up of cells. And every cell has a wall. Every single cell in the body has a wall, and the walls of the cell are like the walls of a castle. They define the cell. And they keep certain things out, and they let certain things in. But there's only so many ways you can get into the castle. There's only so many ways you can get through the wall. Most people prefer to go through the door. Well, that's how it is also in the human body. The cells of the body have doors on their walls through which they allow entry of different things. And there are different doorways for a lot of different things. There's doorways for hormones, there's doorways for sugar, there's doorways for proteins, there's doorways, a lot of different doorways in the cell for different types of biochemicals. Here's what happens when you eat sugar. Right? These are the different doorways on the cell. So these little triangles represent insulin, and these green things are insulin receptor sites on the cell wall. Okay? So you eat something that has sugar in it, or something that your body turns into sugar, a carbohydrate, your body turns it into sugar, and now somehow, magically, that science hasn't figured out, when there's sugar in the body, the pancreas secretes insulin. Nobody knows how that happens or why that happens. But it happens. So now you have insulin flooding the blood of the body, and insulin binds to an insulin receptor site on the outside of the cell, on the cell wall. When insulin binds to the receptor site, the receptor sends a chemical signal through the inside of the cell, which creates a sugar door and then opens the sugar door. It's remarkable. First it makes the door, and then it opens the door. And the thing that starts it out is insulin binding to the receptor site on the cell wall. Now, here's where it gets dicey. Insulin binds to the receptor site. The receptor site sends a chemical signal through the center of the cell, creates a sugar door, and then opens the sugar door. This signal needs minerals to propagate through the inside of the cell. Research has shown that there is one very specific mineral that facilitates this process, and it's a weird little little mineral called chromium that most people have never even heard of. So if your body has become deficient in chromium, you're going to eat something that has sugar in it. Your body's going to create insulin. Insulin's going to bind to the receptor site. The receptor site is going to attempt to send a signal through the wall to build the door and open the door, but that signal gets cut off. It's like the doorbell, right? Somebody snipped the wires on the doorbell, so someone shows up at your front door and rings the door stays closed. So eventually what happens in a situation like this is insulin piles up on the cell wall. Because when this happens, insulin detaches and the cell is happy. When the door is created and the door opens, insulin detaches. But when this signal gets interrupted, the insulin remains attached, and then more insulin, and then more insulin, and then more insulin, and then by sheer volumetric pressure, eventually the insulin buildup punches through the wall and breaks the wall of the cell. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's a bad thing. When that happens, the cell dies. This is why people struggling with insulin-dependent diabetes get their toes fall off, their feet fall off, their fingers fall off. It's because slow and steady cell death, slow and steady cell death, slow and steady cell death caused by insulin. What do medical doctors give diabetics? Insulin. You get it? Now, you know, without that therapeutic, insulin-dependent diabetics would die, but nonetheless, it's half of the treatment strategy. 100% of the type 1 diabetic patients that I have helped with medical nutrition 100%, have been able to decrease their insulin injections by at least 75%, which for type 2 diabetics is gigantic, because it's the sugar spiking and the insulin over time which damages their body. So if you can reduce the amount of insulin that you intake into your body, you're way ahead of the game. But conventional medicine doesn't worry or bother itself with any of that stuff. They just give drugs. So they'll give insulin, which are all analogs to human insulin. Lantus, Humalog, Novorapid, Apidra, Levemir. This is a protein. This is an electron micrograph of Lantus. And it's injectable, and it's big money, $18 billion a year. That's a lot of money. I'll do questions at the end. Is that okay? Otherwise, I'll lose my train of thought. So insulin is created in the pancreas. If you have problems with all of this, it's termed in many different terms: syndrome X, metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance, pre-type 2 diabetes, type 2 diabetes. Right? Now, I just learned today that there's another mineral which is implicated in improper sugar metabolism in the body, and that's an excess of iron and a deficiency in copper. So copper is also implicated here, as is chromium. And maybe there's a bunch of other minerals also, because conventional medicine doesn't do this type of research. They don't give a rat's ass about it. And since they've been in charge of the development and delivery of medicine, it's a crap show. In 2012, 30 million Americans had it. That was 9% of the population. It really goes up a lot in seniors, which is interesting because our thesis is it's mineral deficiencies, and we would expect deficiency syndromes to increase the older that you get. The incidence of diabetes in 2012 was 1.7 million new diagnoses a year. Pre-diabetes, 86 million Americans aged 20 and older had pre-diabetes. This is up from 79 million. The moral to this story is blood sugar trouble is getting worse, and not just a little bit, a bit. And it happened on the watch of the MD and the pharmaceutical industry. But nobody holds their feet to the fire. Nobody holds them to task. There are no congressional inquiries about the ineffectiveness of conventional medicine. There's no call for a free medical market, because we have been socialized for 107 years to believe that if the medical doctor can't figure it out, nobody can. And we put up with crap like this, which literally is killing us. But before it's killing us, it's making us suffer and making us go broke, to add insult to injury. But I'm the quack. This is how it is. It's good to be the king. 2010, to 25.8 million with diabetes. 2012, 29 million. It's getting worse. It's not getting better. Now, here's an interesting study. 1957, Walter Mertz, this was 1957, the year before I was born, eliminated. Walter Mertz could turn type 2 diabetes, insulin-resistant diabetes, on or off in laboratory mice by giving them or withholding from their diet chromium. If he withheld chromium from the little mouse pellets, they developed type 2 diabetes. If he gave them chromium, it went away. 1957. 1957. Now, do you think that the smart people that put the drugs together don't know about this? They know about this. But it's not in their best interest to cure disease. They just manage disease. And, it's not good business to cure things. They'd rather make $39 billion a year with insulin and metformin and drugs like that. Now, this is where it really gets interesting. And again, this is so heartbreaking because these data have been available for decades. I mean, decades. And again, I'm just reporting the academic facts. I'm not making this up. This isn't Dr. Glidden's opinion. This is the published literature. According to the United States Department of Agriculture, and this, by the way, was in 1935, 90% of all the USA soils are deficient in chromium. By the way, plants can't make minerals. Animals can't make minerals. If a plant could make a mineral, we could bioengineer lettuce to make gold and we'd all be rich. The only way that minerals like calcium and copper and chromium and zinc and phosphorus get into the body is if they're in the soil that the plants are growing in. But there's no place on God's green earth where all the minerals that are necessary for human metabolism are found in the topsoil, and we do not pay nor educate farmers to mineralize the soils. Furthermore, when you spray your crop with pesticides and herbicides, those chemicals kill the bacteria that are in the soil, which digest the minerals so the plant can suck it up. So even if the minerals are in the soil, when you use herbicides and pesticides, they can't be absorbed into the plant. Now here's what happens. When there's not enough minerals in the soil, the plant doesn't grow the way that nature intended it to. And one of the first things to go in the metabolism of the plant is the natural sugars in the plant. Insects which eat plants do not have pancreases, so they can't metabolize sugar. So insects love to eat plants that have low sugar. So the more pesticides and the more herbicides, the lower the sugar levels in the plant, the more pests you have, which needs more pesticides and more herbicides. Organic farmers who don't use this stuff, their plants have way more sugar in them, and they have less problems with bugs and pests. And when they sell their products in the marketplace, they taste pretty good. But when you are growing a vegetable or a fruit in an under-mineralized soil, it doesn't taste very good. So what does the food industry do? They add sugar to it, which is like kicking somebody when they're down. And because we don't have a free medical market, all of this nonsense persists. Here's another mineral that's interesting, vanadium. Research has shown vanadium is another trace mineral. It mimics insulin. So vanadium, if you give vanadium to somebody who's an insulin-dependent diabetic, you can help them out tremendously. And as far as we know, there's no side effects to vanadium supplementation. But, you know, follow the money, baby. One diabetic patient treated for 5 years will profit the medical industry $47,000. And by the way, whenever you hear these money statistics, it's never reported to you like this. And over the course of 40 years, $376,000. You always hear these data given to you, oh, the high cost of medical care. Well, the last time I looked, if somebody's spending money, somebody's making money. You never hear these data reported. You're not going to believe how much the pharmaceutical industry made last year managing diabetes. It's always spun to you as a cost to you, not as a profit to the industry, which is a crying shame, but that's one of the ways that the emperor who has no clothes remains the emperor. And again, don't believe me. This article was published in the 1930s. An eminent soil doctor warns that unless we attack the problem of mineral-depleted land on a national scale, we face slow extinction from hidden hunger. In the 1930s. Here's how it goes. There are well, okay, so I'll get to that in a minute. I'm sorry. I haven't looked at this lecture in a long time. So when you go to an MD's office practicing allopathic reductionistic pharmaceutical centrist medicine, and you have a blood sugar issue, here is their standard of care. First, they wait for it to get bad enough before they start treating it. This is the same thing that they do with cancer, by the way. I'll never forget the first cancer patient that I had in my office, and this was, I don't know, like 20, well, it was 31 years ago. Came into my office and they had leukemia. They were just diagnosed with leukemia. And I said, well, what did they do? And they said, well, the oncologist sent me home and they said, wait until it gets really bad because we can't treat it until it's bad. This is the rationale of reductionistic medicine. So they wait until it gets bad because they don't know what causes it, so they don't know how to cure it. They can only manage it. And then they manage it with metformin, 48 million prescriptions a year. Metformin suppresses sugar production by the liver, suppresses sugar absorption by the small intestine, and actually the mechanism of action of metformin is unknown. They know that it does these things, but they don't know how. In a large U.S. study known as the Diabetes Prevention Program, participants were divided into groups and given either placebo, metformin, or lifestyle change. Guess what produced the better results? Lifestyle change. Hands down, it was way better than metformin. No side effects, but because there's no profit in it, and because it's a medical monopoly, and because Big Pharma spends more money on political persuasion than any other organization, and the pharmaceutical industry enjoys more largesse from the United States government than any other industry, even the military. It is massive amounts of money that you can't even comprehend. A couple more slides, then I'll take questions. So my colleague, Dr. Joel Wallach, was in charge of a $25 million study in the 1980s. And the study was provoked by an incident in Japan called the Minamata disaster. When there was an industrial plant in Japan, it dumped tons and tons of liquid mercury into Minamata River. The mercury flowed downstream and emptied into Minamata Bay. The algae sucked the mercury up. The little fish ate the algae. The big fish ate the little fish, and the villagers ate the big fish. Everybody in Minamata village was mercury poisoned. Everybody got sick. Hundreds of people died. And 9 months later, all the kids born in Minamata were like Frankenstein. 3 arms, half a brain, 15 fingers. It was bad. National Geographic devoted an entire publication to it. It was called the Minamata disaster. Now, this sent a shockwave through the scientific community because they figured out it was mercury poisoning, and they thought to themselves, holy crap, if mercury can do this, what about all the other crap we're dumping into the environment? We need to figure this out. So they created a coalition. They cobbled together $25 million, and they did a research project, the intention of which was to discover and prove scientifically once and for all the net negative effects that pollution had on the health of humans and animals. And here's how they did it. Dr. Wallach was in charge of the whole thing. Wallach went all around the world and he did tissue samples and autopsies from animals living in the wild, animals living in zoos, humans living in the same geographic area. 10,000 autopsies, I don't know how many million histopathologies that they did. Halfway through the research, it was almost canceled. I bet you didn't think I was going to say that. And here's why. Because they discovered that as far as environmental pollution goes, in order to create a bad physiological effect, it had to be a really large dose, like the Minamata disaster or Chernobyl, right? But they almost canceled the project because they weren't really finding anything that was relevant, and then they stumbled upon findings. And in research, when you stumble upon things that you weren't looking for, that's gold because it's unbiased. Here's what $25 million 10,000 autopsies and millions of histopathologies proved, and this was in the 1980s. In order for the human body to work the way that nature intended it to, it needs to be topped off every day with 90 essential nutrients. I don't have the breakdown here, I should. Again, this is an old slide. Here's the breakdown. 90 essential nutrients, 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, and 2 fatty acids. 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, and 2 fatty acids for a grand total of 90. This is what needs to find its way into the human body on a regular basis. An essential nutrient is called essential if the body needs it, but it cannot make it. Body needs copper, can't make it. Body needs selenium, can't make it. Body needs chromium, can't make it. There are, in fact, 60 minerals that the body needs, can't make them. Plants can't make them. Animals can't make them. The only way they get into the body is if they're in the soil that the plants are growing, or if you swallow a nutritional supplement that's made from plant-derived organic minerals. So here's the rundown. If this represents the essential nutrients that your body needs, just by eating food, you're lucky if your nutritional tank is half full. And most people's tanks are deficient in minerals. It's not that hard to get vitamins into the body. If you eat enough protein every day, you get amino acids into your body. If you have fish on occasion, you have fatty acids in the body, certain nuts also. But minerals are not that easy to get into the body. So most people's bodies are nutritionally deficient. They don't have the requisite stuff that they need, and then they experience the stress of life. Emotional stress, physiological stress, financial stress, political stress, virus, germs, lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. The stress of life burns through our reserves, and then things start to break. And then when things break, the medical profession calls it a disease. And they deliver treatments that are not intended to fix this, but to manage it. Now here's an interesting fun fact to know and tell. All of the metabolic processes in our bodies are run by the 90 essential nutrients. Vitamins and minerals and amino acids and fatty acids and proteins, not run by pixie dust or fairy dust. So when you're given a drug, your metabolism is upregulated or messed with. And the metabolism of the body is made out of essential nutrients. So the longer that you're under the influence of a drug, the more deficient in nutrients you become. And the drugs stop working. So the dose needs to be increased, or you need a second or a third drug, and we see this with high blood pressure all the time. We see this with pain medication all the time. We see it with arthritis all the time. Now again, the people making the pharmaceuticals know about this, but they don't put vitamins and minerals in their drugs, because if they did, the drugs would work better and you'd need less of them. But my point is, as far as I am concerned, in 31 years of clinical work as a licensed naturopathic doctor, one of the main drivers of chronic disease is undiagnosed and unrecognized nutrient deficiencies, especially minerals. And when it comes to type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance syndrome, the minerals that are necessary are chromium, vanadium, and copper. But not all mineral supplements are created equally, right? Mineral supplements, nutritional supplements are like wine. All wine is made from grapes. There's a pretty big difference from bottle to bottle. Not all chicken soup is the same. It's the recipe and the ingredients make a big difference. In 31 years of clinical work, this product here, it's sold by the Longevity Company, Dr. Wallach's company. This is my favorite distributor, Eiffel Health, eiffelhealth.com. You all got handouts about that. You should have. This product is 100% organic plant-derived minerals, and here's how that works. Minerals are in the soil, the plant sucks it up. As the plant sucks it up, it changes the form of the mineral from a metallic form to a colloidal form. And the colloidal form of the mineral is the preferred form for the mineral to be absorbed in the human body. It's a perfect relationship between nature and humans. Plant-derived minerals are the best way to get minerals into the human body. But because we are holistic, not reductionistic, the thesis here is instead of trying to micromanage the body, we're going to give it everything that it needs in recipes that it can absorb. We're going to get out of the way and let the body sort it out. When we give the right balance of things, the body responds. And this is our magic. This is my recipe for success if you're dealing with a blood sugar issue. I think I've written it down. It's plant-derived minerals, jojoba omegas, and a product called Sweeties. This has chromium and vanadium in it. This has omega-3 essential fatty acids. And remember those cell walls that we talked about, where the receptor sites and the cell doors are? The cell walls are made from omega-3 essential fatty acids. If I just gave omega-3 essential fatty acids to people struggling with blood sugar issues, they would experience improvement. And whenever I'm struggling with an insulin-dependent diabetic and the program isn't going the way I think it should, I just increase their omega-3s and the symptoms get better. So this is a really nice, well-rounded approach towards keeping your body healthy. Per month, the recommendation if you're an adult, 2 plant-derived minerals, 2 bottles of plant-derived minerals a day. You take 1 ounce twice a day. 2 bottles of jojoba omega a month. You take 3 caps 3 times a day with food. 3 bottles of Sweeties a month. You take 4 caps 3 times a day with food. You should only need to do a high dose like this for 2 months. And then you can back off to 1 or 2 bottles a month. But we have to start somewhere and end where with the dosage schedule because everybody's a little bit different. Now, we're out of time, but on my website, I have a robust library of health recovery information that's available to you. I recommend that you go there, you familiarize yourself with it. I have a live chat that we do for 2 hours a week. We do it 1 hour Wednesday morning and 1 hour Monday night. People from all over the world show up in the chat room and I have a conversation with them. I tell them about the latest breaking trends in holistic medicine. But more importantly, the last thing I want to tell you is one of the greatest ironies of my professional life. Remember, I've been doing this for 31 years now. And my experience is most people who are suffering with a chronic illness don't need to see a doctor. Not initially. You may need to see a doctor, and I'm talking about a naturopathic doctor. You don't need a private appointment. You need education. You need to know what foods to stop eating. You need to know what supplements to give your body. And then you do that for 90 days and see how far back your body bounces. This is self-help health recovery at its finest. It's modified. We add new information all of the time. We stay current. And it's a fantastic resource. And it's available at my website. Just do a Google search for Dr. Glidden. Again, full disclosure, I don't make any money from the sale of these supplements. This is my preferred place for you to go to get them. Eiffel Health, Eiffel like the tower, health.com. Check it out. The proof of the pudding is in the eating, right? I appreciate the fact that you believe me, but what I appreciate even more is when you try it and you get results for yourself, because that's really where the rubber hits the road.